Hello, guys. Today, the Undergraduate Business Society is going to be presenting a networking and recruiting etiquette presentation. This is a guide to helping you stand out at these networking events. My name is Lucas. I'm going to be walking you guys through this. Before we get started, I just want to emphasize the fact that this is not supposed to be a step-by-step instructions on how to behave, but rather more of a guideline that will help you showcase the best version of yourself. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So a quick look at the outline for today. First, we're going to be talking about how you should dress at these events. Then we'll go into research, essentially what you should be looking into before you head into the event. Then we're going to be talking about introduction, how you introduce yourself, both body language and what you say. And lastly, we'll go into questions, what you should and shouldn't ask, and how you should approach your questions. So dress code. This is the first impression you're going to be making on these recruiters, so since they last the longest, it's important that we start off on a good note. You don't want to run the chance of having your resume be put on the wrong pile simply because a recruiter didn't think you're dressed for the occasion. So for that reason, it's very, very important that you look sharp and groomed for all of these events. The good news is, though, that there's not that many dress codes that could be asked. It's either going to be business professional, business casual, or casual. But since business professional is the most common one, we're going to go into more detail about that. Business professional for men is fairly straightforward. You're going to be looking at full suit and tie, dress shirt, and dress shoes. You'll want to make sure that your shoes and your belt all fit the theme of the suit, but overall, fairly straightforward. For women, there's a little bit more leeway here. Natural color skirt, suit, or pantsuit. Skirt should hit at knee or below. Formal business blouse or top. Closed toe heels or flats. Hair, makeup, jewelry should all be neat and simple. Just to clear up any confusion, we've included here a few examples of women attire. I just want to reiterate though that this is not meant to be a fashion tip or of any sort. We're simply giving you guys the guidelines for business professional attire. You're free to express yourself however you feel best within the parameters of the dress code. Some final notes for dress codes. Do make sure your clothes fit well. You're going to want to bring a portfolio or a folder for resumes so you look neat and organized. For men mostly, make sure your socks and shoes and belt are all consistent with the theme of the suit, as I stated before. You don't want to wear baggy, long, or too tight fitting clothes. Don't bring a backpack. It's usually not a good idea, especially a JanSport style one. The portfolio would be much better and much more professional. And also, don't wear clothes that are too flashy, ostentatious, or brand intensive. This might give off the image that you're trying to show off, and you don't want that to happen. But I want you to keep in mind these are suggestions based on past experiences and feedback. You should be comfortable in what you're wearing and be very conscious of the image that you're trying to present. What that means is if you're applying, or rather, if you want to be in a fashion industry, you should have that be reflected in the way you present yourself. Likewise, if you want to be a banker, you should know that most bankers usually wear clothes that are either black or blue. So, given that a recruiter is going to be looking at over 100 students in a given day, you don't want to give yourself the chance of getting crossed off the list simply because you weren't dressed for the occasion. Awesome. Let's go into some research now and see what that means. Research is essentially how you prepare yourself before the event, and preparation is the best way that you can stand out. That's how you ask real conclusive questions that allow you to distinguish between one firm and another. And that's not only good for you, but it's also a very good look for the recruiter as well. He's going to be noticing that you've put in the work beforehand, that you know who you're talking to, and that you're prepared to ask the questions that are really going to be crucial in your understanding of what it is that he does. You're also going to want to have a basic understanding of the industries you're going to be talking to. If you're going into business, you want to know about the basics of consulting, banking, investment as opposed to commercial banking. You don't want to be caught asking what a consultant does to a consultant. Not only is that wasting his time, but it also shows that you didn't put in the proper work beforehand, and it's not a good look on you. So just to spare everybody's time and also to put you in the best foot forward, doing your research before the event is crucial to your success. Research is fairly straightforward, but introduction is something that a lot of people actually have trouble with. So hopefully through this, I can show you how to be more confident when you approach the recruiter and also show you some things that you should and shouldn't say. First and foremost, there's mainly two parts of this introduction. It's your body language and then what you say to introduce yourself. One of the most important things is smiling. Be happy when you're talking to this person. Have a good conversation. You want to show your social side. They're people too, and they like talking to people that are smiling at them. Your body language should always be confident, professional, but also relaxed. Don't be too nervous. Like I said, they're also people and they've been in your shoes before. You want to show that you're really interested in what it is that you're talking about. And you want to show that you're really interested in the questions you're asking too. If you're slouched and careless, it's going to give off an image that you're there because you have to, or that you don't really care about the job you're talking about. So treat your body language just like you treat your dress code. So the other very important part of the introduction is what you actually say. And your introduction is going to come at some form along these questions. Tell me about yourself, walk me through your resume, why are you here today? And they essentially mean the same thing. They're asking about you, your background, what you've done, and why they're talking to you today. And even if they don't ask you this question directly, at one point in your introduction, you'll give some abridged version of your answer and maybe follow it with a question that you're really interested in. And regardless, whatever interview you go to, you're going to be getting asked these questions. So it doesn't hurt to take a crack at it. So let's try it right now. For the purposes of this presentation, let's assume that you are at a networking event. If you were to be at an interview, the answer to this question would be a bit longer, maybe 2 to 3 minutes long. But since the event is rather short, you want to keep it to about a minute. And in that minute, you're going to talk about your experiences, your interests, and the reason why you're talking to the recruiter. So let's go through an example. Let's say you approach him and say, "Nice to meet you. My name is Tom." He says, "Nice to meet you, Tom. I'm David. Tell me a bit about yourself." "Sure. I'm a sophomore here at UCLA, and I'm very interested in learning more about your company. I was first introduced to business through some management and economics classes, but since then I made a big effort to learn as much as I can. My professional experiences thus far are more focused in the field of marketing, but I'm really interested in the dynamic and problem-solving nature of consulting, so I'm here today to learn a bit more about the work you guys do." See, that's concise to the point. Explains who you are, sophomore UCLA. You can even include your major in there. It says how you introduce the business, what your interests are, your professional experiences, and why you're there today. You're interested in consulting and you want to learn more about his work. It gives a very good explanation of who you are, and it puts the conversation in a good tone because now he can ask more specifically about some of your experiences. If he wants to know more about your marketing experience, he can either ask you about your resume, particularly about experience that you have there, or he can ask you to elaborate. And this is a great segue into the conversation. However, you do want to be careful that you're not memorizing a script. Rather, you want to focus on key topics about yourself that you want to talk about. That way, when you're talking, it sounds a lot less scripted and practiced, and you sound more relaxed, confident, and poised when you're talking to the recruiter. And also, these questions may come in different parts, and you don't want to go rattle off a script just so you can memorize a certain part of the question that he's asking. So, for that reason, like I said, know what you want to talk about as opposed to just memorizing the script. Our last section for the day is questions, and this is probably the most important section. This is the easiest way that you can stand out, also the easiest way you can mess up. So we're going to be showing you how you should approach this. Asking questions should be about asking what you want to know, rather than trying to make yourself stand out. People have the tendency of asking questions thinking that they're impressing somebody, and that approach almost never works out. With that said, there is such a thing as a stupid question. There's no method to asking a question, but there's a way to go about it. So we're going to go over some do's and don'ts and then go over some examples, and I'm sure you guys are going to have a good idea after we're done. Some do's: ask about things you're interested in, ask questions that allow you to distinguish one firm from another, and ask about the recruiter's personal experience at the firm. This is going to allow you to tap into the projects that they've been working on and also the company culture. Don't ask questions that you could have found the answer to with a little bit of research. These are the type of questions that are like, what does a consultant do on a daily basis? Don't ask questions like that. You're also going to want to avoid asking questions trying to impress. We're going to go over some specific details in the next slide and some specific questions. And also don't ask questions about another firm. Let's look at some examples. So what does a consultant do? This is the type of question that if you had put in a little bit of research, you'd be able to have that answer. Instead, you want to ask things that are more conclusive, like what skill set do you think you developed most during your time at said company? Or maybe what was the most memorable project or deal you've worked on? These questions allow you to distinguish a lot more between one company and the other. And it also makes you seem like you're a lot more interested in what it is that you're talking about. And this not only looks good for you, but it's going to give you a lot more valuable information. Another big no-no: questions like, what do you think about the Amazon Whole Foods deal? This is for more finance related students, but the general topic is don't ask questions about current events unless you're very specifically curious about that company's take on this topic for some random reason, because it's very clear that you're trying to impress them, showing them that you know about something. In the end of the day, they are most likely going to know more than you, and they're going to know that you're not asking anything that's going to give you any valuable information. Instead, you're going to want to maybe focus on questions like, how much of your work would you say consists of teamwork versus personal tasks? This is going to give you a good understanding of the culture of the company, of essentially how the projects are run. Also, what made you choose this company or this industry? Questions like that are going to help you decide what you want to do. And these networking events are for you in the end of the day. So, like I said, in the end, do ask questions you're interested in. Ask questions that are going to allow you to distinguish one company from another, and ask questions that are about the recruiter's personal experiences. If you ask questions along those guidelines, you're going to have a great time at these events. Some final notes: keep updated copies of your resume with you ready to hand out. You're going to want to be talking about your resume. Ask for business cards at the end of the conversation if you have a chance, and make an effort to take notes about the things you talked about. You can either take notes after or just put the notes on the back of the business cards. This is going to be very important for when you follow up. You're going to want to mention things you had talked about in your conversation. That way, the recruiter may be remembering you through the conversation you guys had. But also, when you go to look back in your notes, you're going to be able to see different ways that companies answer the same questions. You're going to also want to keep in mind that these suggestions are based on past experiences and feedback. Following these tips is going to make sure you look sharp, but the way you really stand out is by being yourself. So follow these guidelines, but don't lose track of who it is that you're trying to show off, and that is you. And lastly, enjoy yourself. These recruiters have been in your shoes not too long ago, and coming back to campus can make them feel like they're at home. Talking about some common experiences you may share at UCLA is going to be beneficial for the both of you. All right, guys, that wraps it up for us. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I hope you found it beneficial. Let's see if we can apply some of these principles at the next event and showcase the best version of ourselves. Once again, thank you and best of luck going forward.